Welcome to the July 17th, 2023 regular board meeting of the Beacon City School District. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you please remain standing? I just wanted to give a moment of silence for Jill Gilbert, who worked in the business office for 7 years, passed away. Thank you. I have a motion to appoint Anne Marie Corderoni, Clerk Pro Tem.
So moved.
Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Was that Eunice? Are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 6-0. Anne Marie, do you mind doing the roll call?
Sure. Semra Urchin,
Here.
Kristen Flynn,
Here.
Eunice Heath,
Here.
Elena Cush,
Excused.
Eric Shetter,
Here.
Anthony White,
Here.
Laura Sadler,
Excused.
Meredith Huron.
Here, thank you. Matt, do you mind reviewing the fire exits, please?
Exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. Open to the public. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to move on. Are we doing the facilities update now, or that's?
I was going to do it just during
Okay,
superintendent report.
so we're going to pass that over. Reviewing the agenda, there are no additions or corrections. I would like to change the order of the agenda slightly and pull 2 appointments before we do our exec session, but I don't know what they are. So 12.29, and then 12.28. Is Kelly here or Stella? Stella, hi Stella, how are you? Okay, we'll pull you so you don't have to wait through exec. So 12.28 BB2. Can I have a motion to approve 12.29 and 12.28 BB2?
So moved.
Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eunice. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor. Congratulations, both of you. We're very happy for you to join the district. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual and to discuss attorney-client advice? And the board will return in about 20 minutes.
So moved.
Anthony, is there a second? Second by Semra. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor. Passes 6-0. Thank you. I think we're all here.
Okay, all right. For the superintendent update tonight, I just wanted to quickly go through the work that's happening in the district this summer. This is sort of the first phase of the capital project work. Much more is happening next summer. We're not going to get into that right now. And some of the work's obviously very visible, some is not. So I was just going to review and maybe not be able to answer questions at a deeply technical level, but we'll do my best. So there's work happening in 4 of the schools. I'll start with Beacon High School. Beacon High School is mainly roofing that's happening. And then Rombout also has roofing work that's happening, very visible that parking areas and driving lanes in both the lots are being completely reconstructed. Also, some select areas of sidewalks and ramps are being replaced. And Rombout also is their main electrical switchgear and feeders are being all replaced, which has the Rombout office basically operating here at the high school for almost the whole summer. Beacon High School is kind of our center of operations for a lot this summer, just because a lot of the buildings are unusable. So that's what's happening at Rombout. That was just today. I should have gotten a little video because there was, the things were moving. The equipment would have been very exciting for
And
little
also,
kids
if
to
you knew
watch.
how to embed the video into the PowerPoint.
Forrestal, there's a lot going on at Forrestal. Ceiling, the ceilings are being replaced in the hallways, both of the first floor and the lower floor. There's new LED lighting going in, a new boiler's being installed. And then I have a picture of where this is happening. They're going to be adding windows where windows used to be and were boarded up years ago. And those hallways will be repainted. So this is... So those you can see there are windows in that part of the hallway. This part you can see the old kind of boarded up windows. That's going down the hallway at Forrestal to where the 4th grade is and art. And so along with, new a new ceiling for the hallway, there's going to be some windows put in and new paint. And that is the new boiler materials arriving and waiting to be put in. So Forrestal has a lot happening. And then Sargent has kind of a very similar project to Forrestal, except they are also getting the upper bus loop, the parking and drop-off lanes are being reconstructed. Like Rombout, some sidewalks and ramps are being replaced. Like Forrestal, ceilings and hallways are being replaced, LED lights are being installed, and they're getting new boilers as well. So that's just, this was actually about 10 days ago. So this work is advancing really quickly. I'll get some pictures hopefully later this week, and I'll share them with the board and the community, because this work is happening pretty fast, which is great. But this is Sargent. Those are new boilers coming in, and that is the parking area. One parking area that we thought we could do this summer was Glenham. But Glenham is not happening. We rejected the bid. We've just got one bid on that, and we want to rebid that for next summer. So I'm sharing that just because people might be wondering, didn't we talk about more parking at Glenham and redoing Glenham? Because that is in need of a lot of help over there with just the amount of cars and stuff at Glenham. That work is happening, but it just wasn't, it didn't make sense cost-wise for us to do it with the one bid that came in. So we were going to rebid that. So it's coming up. All of these things are happening on time right now. Knock on wood. And so what's happening next for us is, obviously monitoring this work that's happening, but also preparing for Phase D, summer of 2024, where we're going to have work happening in all 6 of our buildings, both inside and outside. It's going to be a really massive summer. So what we're doing right now in terms of that is we're preparing, finishing the architectural drawings and getting the bid stuff prepared to put the information out to potential bidders in August, mid-August. with hopefully bids being accepted by the board in October is the timeline. Reason we're trying to do that so early is in Phase D, there's some HVAC work with unit ventilators happening in several of our schools, and those unit ventilators you need to order months and months in advance to have them ready for summer 2024. So we're trying to bid everything pretty early, and we'll be updating the board through that too. So one thing that we're monitoring, and obviously we'll know mid-September, but as sort of saying the obvious here, construction costs are higher than we thought they were going to be 2 years ago when we started this project. So we might, with the bidding, we might be doing a lot of bid alternates. We might be making some decisions about what stays in for the summer of 2024 and what we can't afford. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky, but that's something that we're kind of be preparing for, and we'll be working with the board on that, both the facilities committee. It's in September and October, and the whole board too. But everything this summer is going really well so far with the capital project. And the summer academy, the elementary summer academy started last week, and we have 270 students, which is great. It's a 3-week program for the elementary students this year. Last year was 4 weeks, but with all the space issues we're having, 3 made the most sense. And then when the elementary kids are done at the end of July, the middle school will have a 3-week summer academy. And I think it's not 270 kids, but it's a good number of kids. I want to say close to 200. So both of those are happening here at the high school, along with high school summer school started as well. So we have a very busy summer happening and lots of good stuff. Is there any questions about capital project?
Matt, the work being done at Roundabout,
Yep.
is it just the loop being repaved or is the whole parking lot? Is it, the middle part staying as is?
Right. I think it's just
I think that the work was more about the loop,
Okay,
in the newer section.
But they're gonna go
They dug out
okay.
the whole loop part in the bus part, but they're not digging out the entire parking lot
Right.
for that.
Okay.
And I think they're just.
That's what I see. I see the
Yeah.
big loop being dug out.
Yeah.
And the grass areas, are they staying, there's like grass?
that are hard to plow.
Yeah, are they staying as is?
That's my understanding.
Okay, okay.
I
Expensive.
can find out a little bit more, but the loop actually ended up where the parents drop off. They had such a problem with the way
Okay.
it was configured, so I think this was more like of a safety thing with, and then doing the sidewalks and stuff
Got it,
too.
okay.
I went back to my picture there. Any other questions? Summer 2024 is going to be big, so there's going to be work happening in all 6 of our buildings. We're super excited about it, and we'll know more September, October what is feasible.
Thank you. Board comments. Samra, do you have any comments you want to share?
Thank you. Yes, I'll just say that being very new on the board, this is only my 3rd meeting, but I spent the first 2 meetings listening and absorbing information and reading all my training materials. And I just wanted to say that I'm excited to support the superintendent and your offices in whatever way is necessary and appropriate. And, from the hiring of a teacher at South, a principal at South, to the capital project and beyond. So, and I'm also, now that we've had our committee assignments, I'm just very much looking forward to working with this group. Although I've just gotten to know you, it seems like a very knowledgeable and dedicated group of people. So I'm really excited about working with all of you. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Kristen?
No comments.
Eunice?
No comment.
Eric?
Nothing tonight.
Anthony?
I'm good.
The only comment I have is that we have a policy meeting on July 24th, 7 p.m. And policy, who's on policy? Policy.
Is that also here?
And, yeah, that will be here.
Okay.
And you have the materials to read through. Okay, great.
Begun to read them.
I have not dug into that yet, but,
I just want to confirm, it is just what Vicky sent, right?
did she send the code of conduct, because that is part of it?
I don't
and
think she sent that piece. Okay, that's what I wanted
We're,
to.
we're gonna be with the code, after speaking with the principals, especially the secondary ones, we wanna, kind of just roll it over, in a sense.
So no big changes?
No, I mean, there's a lot of discussion, I'm not opening this for right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation about cell phone, but I think that's less code of conduct and more supporting teachers and, developing some school-wide procedures around them. So that seems to be the main emphasis for everyone.
Okay.
So the code should stay the same. So I'll talk to you about how we do that.
Okay, great. So then,
Just the
yes.
ones that Vicky sent, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of phones, one of the policies that, I'm not sure if it is in that material, but one of the
Yeah.
policies that we talked about really digging into is some sort of phone policy, but I think that's certainly not going to happen in one meeting, and we need plenty of input from teachers and administrators.
Right.
So, that would sort of like just be the beginning of that discussion.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
But speaking of the committees, just quickly, I do want to say, so according to our committee's procedures, I set the president sets the meeting for the first meeting for every committee. We've talked about how to do this in the past, and I mentioned at the last meeting, I really felt like the committees are just a little chaotic last year. And I recommended in the past, I'm going to recommend again and see how people feel about it, that committee meetings happen on the alternate Mondays, that we don't have board meetings. I feel like that's a night that board members have cleared, probably anyway. The downside is it is the same night as the city council meeting, so it sort of prevents people from attending these meetings if they want to go to the city council, and it prevents board members from attending city council meeting if they have a committee meeting. But you wouldn't have a committee meeting every Monday. I think that all committees can probably meet every other month. I feel like we should try that system and see how it works, just to kind of lower the impact on everyone. So if that sounds okay to everyone that's here, I will set up a calendar and see how that works. Set up some sort of preliminary calendar that we can work with.
Okay. That work?
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few new business items. The first is to discuss the empty board seat. So, as I mentioned at the last meeting, or the meeting before, we have a few options for this empty seat. We can leave it empty until the next election. We can hold a special election. We can appoint, or there's a weird archaic rule where we could have BOCES appoint someone for us, but no one ever does that. I just felt I should mention it. I wanted to hear from everyone what they thought about it. The downside of leaving it empty is we still need 5 for quorum. But we made it tonight, so.
And we could have tied votes.
And we'd have tied votes. And if you have a tied vote, according to Robert's rules, you basically continue the discussion and vote again until you are no longer tied. So a little bit of a war of attrition, but
I say it's early in the year. Why don't we put out an interest to see who would be interested in being appointed, and then we could go through a process that we've done in the past.
anybody else have thoughts?
I mean, we have talked about reducing the size of the board. So it's something that might give us an opportunity to, if we leave it empty till the next election, we could start to actually have that discussion.
I think we could still have that discussion even if it's filled or not. Just looking at what we've done in the past, I mean, we've had a lot of vacant seats in the last couple of years, and we've always appointed.
We have, I was for appointment during the pandemic because there was a really high mortality rate with COVID. I don't, and we had 2 vacancies at that time. I can say personally, I would be open to leaving it open because the last appointment process was incredibly controversial. And I think we do have a large enough board to absorb an empty seat until the election.
And if if we would appoint someone, they would just complete what John's term would have been. So I don't know how long that would have been.
Exactly, so he was in his, that's a good question. He was in his, he had just finished his first year, so there's 2 more years. But we could put the seat on the ballot at the next election and fill the seat
Right.
that way. We don't have to keep the seat empty for 2 years. I mean, in terms of shrinking the board,
Right.
you know, I did feel like, well, if we left the seat empty until the next election, we could get a sense of what it feels like to be a smaller board and to handle, the burden really is the committees. But John was actually not on any committees, and so that's not really going to change anything. I think going to 7, the downs, I used to feel very, very strongly, absolutely, we should shrink the board. I still lean toward that, but I definitely see that it doesn't leave a lot of room. It really, every board member then really has to, you know, be very present, do the work, and you know, there is a lot of work to do. So I actually don't feel quite as passionate as I used to, though I think I still believe we would manage fine with a smaller board.
I mean, we could go through the appointment process and not appoint. You don't have to appoint if you go through the process. You could decide to still leave it vacant. I don't even know if
This is
anybody
a
would,
small
because it was
community.
unaccompanied.
I would feel really, I'm not sure.
I mean, no one ran opposed, right? Every seat that we had
was
was
the other thing.
opposed.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if there'd be people that would be interested, but like, if you go out there and at least it shows that we're looking to, and people may not put in. No one was knocking at the door to say, hey, I want to run for the board.
Right. But I think we have, you know, in our leadership position, we have the option to say, you know, we need that or we don't need that. I mean, are you, I'm not sure if I'm totally following your logic there. Are you saying that like there are people that maybe didn't want to oppose someone else in the election that might be interested in the seat, or?
I'm saying that people ran, they may not have wanted to go through the election process because they would be a first-time board member and they kind of want to see what it's like, so they might be wanting to go through appointment process to then see if this is something they want to do, then to pursue to be elected.
I mean, that makes sense, except that it would, if someone was super interested and engaged, they would be coming in at least watching meetings or, you know. I mean, I was appointed, I can tell you, I was here for a year, like in the audience before I was appointed. So like
But
when
there
it
were
came
other
time
people
to-
that were appointed that weren't.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So I think it's just depends on the person.
and I think the proof was that the people who weren't didn't finish their terms.
No, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And there's people that were elected that didn't finish their terms either, too. I mean, I think it's hard to judge it. I'm just saying I would be in favor of going through an appointment process.
I don't want to put you on the spot at all. You don't even have to answer these questions, but you were against the appointment process last
Correct.
time. So do you mind explaining your change of heart?
Well, I think to be consistent with what we've done in the past, and it's a longer term, this appointment would be the longest term that we would be appointing someone to. The other ones were shorter terms as well. So I'm saying if we appointed for shorter terms in the past, and this is a full year, why wouldn't we look at an appointment?
I guess I really do believe in letting the public choose whenever possible. And,
That's different than what you felt in the past, though.
right, and I explained that earlier. It was during a pandemic. A board member had just died in Newburgh, and so I was concerned about keeping the board functioning.
Okay. No, that's fine.
It's mostly for me, honestly, about, we have a relatively young board again. It's like, to go through the appointment process it's work. Like, it's a lot to do as, you know, like, you're getting your feet under you, and I feel like the last appointment process, I know what we've done in the past. I feel like my appointment process, like, I would have just run again. There was a different time, like, we were in like an extremely volatile period where I feel like it was important to get on the board because I had been coming for a year and I really wanted to be a part of selecting the next superintendent, because we had had 10 and 10, that would be our 10th in 10 years. And we were trying to fundamentally change something. I think the last appointment process, I was in favor of it, and looking back, it was so divisive. It just kind of shredded us for a while. And in terms of cohesion and function, I just, if somebody encourages a friend to run or to apply, and then someone else. I mean, I remember at my appointment, one of the other people who applied was in tears, and it was a terrible feeling. They didn't get it, and I got it, and I thought about that person because I really liked that person. They would have been a good board member too. They hadn't been coming for a year, and so I felt more prepared to be on the board. But it's not this thing that brings you together. It can get very messy, and I feel like getting up and running is sort of right now is important. But I mean, either way, we've done it before. We could go through it again. I don't really have super.
Can I just ask how does it, how do you go through the appointment process? Do you just?
So we put an ad in the paper. We put, I'd have to look up all the
Okay.
details, but
So there's an actual.
we had a
go-
process
okay.
for it, yeah, and we had the people that were interested sent in an application, and then they came and answered questions from the board, and then we decided from there. It was an extremely divisive time in our country, and that came right to this board meeting, and I think that I really do try to strive for consistency, but I also believe in learning from my experiences. And I guess what I took away from that is that I would try to avoid the appointment process if possible, because it was so. I mean, I had to shut down a meeting because people were yelling, and
Well, we had one space opened,
yeah.
and then it was kind of at the height of post George Floyd. The board was sort of seen as not being diverse enough, even though all of us had run unopposed pretty much for a while. But we had 2 candidates of color, and then one of our board members resigned. Rather than choose one of our board members resigned and then gave an interview about kind of exec to a local publication about that selection process. Now, I don't think anybody here would do that. Maybe that was an exception, but that was really not fun. And then in another time, there were people who were genuinely upset that they didn't get on the board when they went through that process, because they write an essay, they speak in public, there's skin in the game. And it's I almost feel like when you go out and get signatures, there's a method to that where you kind of acclimate to
Yeah. Well, and I do think that
being in
there's,
public and doing that.
I mean, it's really hard. It's hard to stay interested in something that's, I guess, running pretty smoothly. But I do feel like, I'm really grateful, Eric and Semra, that you were willing to run this time. I don't know, there are people that watch every board meeting, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are. If they're watching tonight, they could certainly email us and give, we don't have to vote on this tonight. We could see if anybody's watching and emails and says, I'm really interested. But yeah, my gut, unless we get some interest through that, is I think we would be okay to make it till the next election.
I mean, I know somebody that watches, and they've just realized that John had resigned because they're a couple of weeks behind. And they were like, oh, that's new. But nobody else has said anything to me about that.
Yeah, I think most people have not noticed.
I mean, you're out in public a lot too at games and stuff. Has anybody mentioned that to you?
I've heard some interest.
I have 2. So.
And those are people that said, I don't want to go through an election process. I would only want to be on the board through an appointment process.
No. I mean, the interest that I've heard from the 3 people, none of them expressed that. I didn't ask the question specifically. I'm just saying that I know that there are some people in communities, not just Beacon, that they didn't want to, they wanted to test the waters and they didn't want to go through an election process. So they looked to get the experience through an appointment to see if they liked it, if they could do it, if they could handle it with their job. And then they went on. I'm not speaking specifically to Beacon, but I'm just speaking in general, knowing people.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I'm not like opposed to, I will just say as probably, I think I'm the only person that's been like both appointed and elected that,
I mean, I get it. Like, I understand your hesitation, right? The appointment process wasn't good. That's where my experience came in, and I was against it because I went through it, right? And so I was against it at those points. But the board, you know, we put it to a vote, and the board was like, "Hey, let's go through the appointment process." And
well,
I
I
was
mean,
fine with it.
I can say that at that time.
Well, you
I felt
voted
like
against it, but.
Right, I voted against it, but with the process, I was fine with it.
Yeah, I think that just from the experience of having done both, like I will say that it's, if anybody's curious and asking and they're like, I don't know if I can do it with my job or anything like that, you figure out the logistics, but the kind of experience of going out and collecting signatures and interacting with people and having those conversations and putting yourself out there in that way actually I think is better preparation than just, and then I would say the second better preparation is practicing coming to a meeting regularly to see if you can make that work logistically without having the obligation. And, you know, I can say when I was appointed, I think my youngest wasn't even in the school district yet. He was a toddler. And it was hard. It was really hard, like doing that stuff. But I was committed, so I made it work. But I was committed enough to be showing up for a year before that too, and staying until 1 a.m. or, you know, midnight or whatever. So it's like, I feel like if somebody's really interested and engaged and they're paying attention to meetings and they're watching, then we'll hear from them. And if they feel like we should go through this process, I'm totally open to hearing that. I will just say that the last process was bruising and didn't in the end feel like, it felt like a long time before we even functioned well. And I do believe that the people who joined the board were given like incorrect information about the board that made it harder it took like a year to build trust and like feel even comfortable after having an exec leak to a publication. I felt like we all couldn't speak freely in exec. After that, we felt very guarded and betrayed. And it was, yeah, I mean, I will say I learned from that process. I learned from the first one too, but I agreed to the second one because I felt like, you know, the criticism of the diversity was to a point valid, and maybe people who hadn't thought about engaging before were suddenly willing to engage, and we had to be open to that, having that conversation. And so, but I feel like it got manipulated and abused, and I felt like we paid a big price for it.
Well,
And if you're curious about any of that, you can go back and watch some old meetings.
Is there some way to improve that process?
I mean, you know,
That's the nice thing. The board could set whatever it wants for the
Right.
appointment.
yeah, we can.
I mean, not having done it, I just
Yeah,
don't know
we can
that I have
revisit
the
the. I mean, in a way, the part that you can't really change is that if someone puts themselves out there, then you will be choosing them or not choosing them, and then you will be running them into them in Key Food or whatever you do,
Right.
you know, and that's just the size of this place and the nature of it, and that's not why I'm shying away from it at all. I think, although I'm just not sure it's necessary, I guess, you
Right.
know.
It felt like last time it felt like it was this moment where it felt like we should respond to what was being put in front of us and
Yeah. I mean, that was, you know, it was a national
reckoning.
yeah. And I think we had an opportunity to give two people who wouldn't have run, you know, sort of to your point, an opportunity to try it. And yeah, one didn't finish their term. The other did and went on to be elected again and then didn't finish the term. So, you know, it's a lot to onboard people. You do realize like that having a stable board is really important to a stable district. And so I think the question we need to ask ourselves is like, does that increase our stability or does it decrease our stability? And I honestly, I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I think we have a great board right now. We do have a young board, basically. I mean, Anthony, Kristen, and I are, have been around the longest. My goal is to just get the newer board members really engaged, so that we have just a very engaged board. And if the board decides we want to go through an appointment process, then we'll engage that new person as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everyone wants to sit on it until the next, I mean, obviously, if we were to do that, we should get on it, so it's worth doing it before the next election. I will not be at the next meeting, but I'm okay if,
How long was our process? I feel like we had like the timing was,
I can look up, I mean,
yeah, I think we need to look, if we
like a
could
month and a
talk
half,
about it
2
again at
months.
the next meeting, and not to like slow roll this at all, but like, I feel like just looking at those two processes, it's worth talking about. And if people are paying attention and they want to
yeah, if we receive
engage
some
with us
emails.
about it, then
I mean, we have the Highlands Current here, perhaps there will be
Jeff,
something
here's your story.
written
Headline.
about it.
Please be sure that
Big
say
font.
like, please misquote me or something if you want. No, you've never done that, but like say I was opposed to it and like, took a few things out of context.
But the
and
other
I feel
thing that you
great.
brought up too, Meredith, about reducing the board, I think it would be great if the newer board members could see the process. I know in the past, the attorneys wrote a memo.
Yeah, I
how to
will forward
reduce.
that to the, I figured we have time to decide, because that has to, so to reduce the board, you need to have it approved by the public, and so it would need to go on the next ballot. So I can forward
There
that
would be a
information.
timeline and stuff that would
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I figured let's figure out about this empty seat, and then we can deal with that. But I will definitely get that to everyone. Okay, so I will,
Meredith, if we have somebody that is interested, should we have that person send a letter of interest, like an email of interest to
by all means,
you or to all of us?
the
or-
entire board would
Okay.
be great. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll put it on for business, for discussion again for the next meeting, and Flora can continue to guide the discussion, and we'll go from there.
I think I'm like having PTSD about it, honest to God. My hand is shaking. Like I'm still like, don't think
fun.
about it too much.
So,
Just didn't expect it coming from me.
What?
You didn't
That
expect that I would be in favor.
I will say I'm confused because I was like, well, Anthony's not going to want to do this. He's been through 2 and it was a terrible experience, but okay.
so the next item is the legal RFP. It's been since 2016, I think, since we appointed our current legal counsel, and best practice is to review that contract every 5 to 7 years, so we're kind of at the tail end of that. Does everyone agree that we should move forward with that? Are there any
Yeah.
problems with that? Okay, so I think, I actually cannot, I was looking through emails today, trying to find what we did, but I think Anne Marie, you,
It's also on Board Docs, I saw it in a search, so I can download it and send it to you.
okay, perfect. So we'll basically follow that exact same process, see who we get, interview them, and make a decision, hopefully by,
Just one quick question. When we did the architecture firm, Anne Marie and I kind of, if I'm remembering this correctly, didn't we interview and then we kind of brought you all like the top 3 or 4?
Right, except that they're going to work for the board.
Yeah,
There's
the-
were you weren't
No,
a
no,
part
no.
of it.
I'm
Yeah.
just, so this is just a straight, all of them go to the board.
I think the board should receive all of the applications. I don't
Right,
think
right,
we would
right. I mean, I'm
necessarily.
fine with all
We
that.
did not get
It was a good
dozen
process.
applications last time
No.
either. I think we
Right, there's
got-
not as many law
Four
firms as
firms,
architecture.
yeah. And one was
So-
our current firm. There was our current firm and then our
Right.
firm
Laura,
reapplied.
Drohan, Harris Beach,
Yeah,
Keenan
and
Bean. Did we?
Gervin and Gervin.
Oh, Gervin and Gervin, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
4.
I'll be surprised if we get that many again.
There's a real, I mean, not to feel like, I really enjoyed that process, but I did. I felt like it was so it was a great learning experience
Yeah.
as a board member to
I think
really, especially if you don't work in education, to like understand their role, and if we get people that apply, they look at the district and kind of have an approach or a thought process.
I mean, I think we're in a different stance sending out this RFP than we sent out the last legal
Oh,
RFP.
without question. Right.
So the last legal RFP, there was some, there was unhappiness, right? This one, I don't think that that's the case.
No, not at all,
It's
yeah.
just a best practice it's been 7 years to make sure, the rates are being competitive, that the services that they're offering are comparable to what the other agencies are. A big factor in the last legal RFP was vicinity to the district. So there were two one was up in Rochester area, and then another was up in Albany. Then one was in Poughkeepsie, one was in East Fishkill, and there were some things that we liked about ones that were far away, but then there were some things that we thought were potential barriers and stuff, so it's always good to view, especially with new board members, to see, does that still impact right distance? Like, could they just come to the meeting, or do they have to Zoom in? When we were doing the RFP, we didn't have Zoom, or we weren't Zooming in,
Right.
so that wasn't something that we would consider, and we wanted them close vicinity and stuff. But I think it's a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, as a person who is, most of my public comment for like the last month before I joined the board was directed at the getting an RFP for the law firm. I feel like it'd be hypocritical not to say that we
Well,
should do
when I
that.
looked at the emails from 2016, it was crazy. Not to tempt anyone to foil, but it was all just like, how do we get a new law firm? And
Yeah.
it was a priority of everyone not everyone, but most
Yeah.
people on the board.
I let our firm know you all were
Yeah.
going to talk about it, and
Yeah.
They welcomed
concurred
it.
and said this is good practice, and that, districts should do this every
Yeah.
so
Yeah, this
often.
is not because we are currently unhappy with them.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope that they will
Apply.
put in a proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please tell them to. Yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off about it. Like, I know they've been a very good partner, and they've been very supportive of the district, and they've been, immeasurably helpful in a variety of ways. But I just think that I will say that two things. One, I was very publicly critical of not doing RFPs, and two, I really, like, as a new board member, found that process so helpful, and just was like, you just learn a lot about their role in the district and the things that happen. And I think it's also good, if you have a good relationship, to kind of have them rethink, how things could be better, so it doesn't get stale.
So what does the timeline look like? Just curiosity. Or Anne Marie,
I don't think it has to be as long as the last
No,
time.
no. I think we can. I think
Month
we
and
can,
a half? I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
3 meetings.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's absolutely fine. I think we could give
Like
even a month for,
Notice and then
and then schedule the meetings.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
That same night, like we were doing each one a night.
Yeah, there were longer meetings. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, we also had a lot of suits happening at the time too.
Well, we did.
So we had two execs like every.
We did.
You interview the firms like in exec in a board meeting?
They submitted a proposal.
Right.
And then what we did is we reviewed the proposals, and then if we wanted to go forth with
An interview.
meeting them, an interview, we would ask them to come to a board meeting.
Okay.
And then we would meet them during
But
executive session.
maybe we can just do a separate night where we meet them in a row, so it's not part of a board meeting.
Like a special meeting or something, or?
Yeah, a special exec. I think we can check with legal, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we could do that, and that would probably streamline
Let
it.
them bump into each other and.
They all know each other anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me,
see
they
each other
all
in
know each
NISBA.
other.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get a picture in my head of
Yeah,
what it looked like.
yeah, so
Well, I mean, we also had at that time like very specific, like we had a whole framework, like a rubric that we were using because we were trying to address some issues, and we had like lawsuits happening at the time that was helpful to get some
Yeah.
different perspectives. So it was
So-
different. It wouldn't look like that.
Yeah, so Anne Marie, we can, maybe we talk tomorrow or the next day and just formalize what it's gonna be, and I can email the board to update you, but just in terms of the timeline and everything like that. Okay, thank you. Okay, last order of business and new business is did everyone see the letter from John Redmond, requesting a nomination for being the Area 9 Director.
Yes.
Is anyone interested in nominating John Redmond? For
I
the-
will nominate John Redmond.
So, second.
Are there any comments or questions? Are everyone in favor of the nomination?
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I'm in favor, so we have nominated John Redmond.
What?
Can I just bring something up that's a discussion about NISBA? It's in October. I know it's a little early, but we always,
For the convention?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
For attending?
for attending,
Yeah.
to start that process a little earlier so we could, it's out in Buffalo.
Yeah,
And so we could, like, if people are interested, they could get a hotel where the convention is, so they're not driving.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't
you're
know.
obviously welcome to email the clerk at any time and say that you are interested in going.
well, I didn't know if it was gonna be like a group, right?
Yeah.
If anybody else, so
It is, do you have the dates in your head?
October.
Do we have to do this as like a
17th,
new
October
business
27th
motion
and
or something?
28th, I think.
Or just chatting?
27th and 28th, I think it is, October.
Okay, we're just chatting.
Um,
We've gone off the rails.
Why don't I, yeah, does anyone know right now if they want to go to the,
I do.
yeah, besides Anthony?
Are you gonna go, Eric?
I don't know.
Have you ever been to NISBA before?
No.
Oh my God, I feel like this
October
would be like a
26th to
whole
28th.
different view of your
26th.
education
26th
career.
to the 28th.
I just don't know the dates. I don't remember what the
October.
dates.
October
Yeah.
26th to the 28th.
I gotta take a look.
Summer and Eunice, have you been? I know Summer hasn't been. Eunice, did you go last time?
Why don't everyone just plant that seed in their head?
Okay.
And.
That's why I was planting it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm available for it, I'm not sure if I'm gonna go, but anyway, we can,
I'm 1 week at a time right now.
I will put it on for,
Well, when Vicky's, can't talk. Vicky's on vacation right now. When she's back, she can pull the board.
great, I'll ask her to.
I feel like you figure out like what the zeitgeist of the first year was like wellness and health and then
You said 26 to 28.
Yeah,
That's a Thursday.
it's great. Maybe I can do that.
okay. So, moving on to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to uphold?
I would like to pull 12.12 and 12.14.
Do they have letters, or is it just,
Sorry,
that's okay.
Under the
12.12
L.
L5,
Wait,
L, 12.12 L,
L,
and 12.14 N, I think. Yes, N.
to,
So just for point of order,
L,
you're pulling to abstain.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you could do 12.14
You can be even more specific.
and
Oh,
2,
okay.
and then 12 point, what was it?
1 to L.
L5,
So you said N2?
okay. It's
N is in Nancy 2?
12.12 L5
Uh-huh,
and 12.14 N2.
gotcha, okay. Are there any other
Thank you.
items that anyone would like to uphold? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve 11.01 through 15.03? We already approved 12.29 and 12.28 BB2, but also less 12.12 L5 and 12.14 N2. Is there a
So moved.
motion? Kristen, second by Eunice. Are there any comments or questions?
I'd just like to thank all the people for doing the summer work.
Yeah, it's great.
Much appreciated.
I'm so glad this is happening again this year.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm also in favor, passes 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve 12.12 L5?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony, second by Eunice. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention, so passes 5-0. You're lucky. Would have had to
He's
put it on
not
it.
lucky.
Patrick is lucky. Tell him how lucky he is.
Yeah, okay.
Lucky, he's just skated through, just got through by the skin of his teeth.
This is the smaller board issue. 12.14, can I have a motion to approve 12.14 and 2?
So moved.
Second.
Anthony, seconded by Kristen. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. I'm in favor, so it passes 5-0. And I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Anthony, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eunice. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Have a good night, everyone.
All righty.